All right, strap in everyone, because today we are diving headfirst into Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, yeah.
You hear that and you're probably thinking, ugh, another crypto conversation.
Right.
But I think this is going to be different because we're going to try to explain why understanding Bitcoin is important, even if you yourself have never bought a single Satoshi.
Yeah, I think that's right. Bitcoin challenges a lot of what we think we know about money and even how power is distributed,
Hmm.
and what the future of finance could look like.
Yeah, and speaking of assumptions and unknowns, we kind of have to address the elephant in the room right out of the gate, which is Satoshi Nakamoto. This mysterious creator who just vanished.
Yeah.
It's like almost too good to be true. Makes you wonder if that was all part of the plan to make Bitcoin seem even more revolutionary.
Well, the mystery definitely adds to the mystique, right? But, I think what's maybe more interesting is why Bitcoin came about when it did.
Okay.
Think about it. 2008. The whole financial system is teetering on the brink of collapse. People are losing faith in banks.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, this white paper appears online, and it basically lays out a whole new system.
So it was like a direct response, like a digital life raft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it came out of this movement called cypherpunks. And these were people who really believe in using cryptography to protect privacy and individual liberty. They saw centralized control of money as a threat, right? And Bitcoin was, to them, the solution, a decentralized system where no one entity has control.
Yeah, and this is what I find really fascinating is this idea that Bitcoin is unstoppable because it's not controlled by a single government or institution. Can you unpack that a little? Like, how does that actually work?
Sure, yeah. Imagine like a worldwide network of computers, all constantly talking to each other
Okay.
and verifying transactions.
Okay.
These are the nodes, and anyone can join this network.
Hmm.
And then you've got miners who are solving complex math problems to add new blocks of transactions to the blockchain.
Okay.
And the blockchain is the public ledger where all Bitcoin transactions are recorded.
So it's kind of like a giant collaborative accounting system, but it's spread out across thousands of computers.
Yeah, like a digital fortress, right?
Yeah, exactly. That sounds pretty tough to shut down.
That's the idea. And because it's all based on math, it's not on anyone's say-so. It's resistant to censorship and manipulation.
What about this 21 million Bitcoin limit? Is that just to make it scarce and drive up the price?
I mean, scarcity is part of it, right? Think of it like digital gold.
Okay.
But it's also about having a fixed, predictable supply. Unlike government-issued currencies, which can be printed endlessly,
Right, right.
leading to deflation,
Yeah.
Bitcoin supply is set. It's in the code. No one can just change it.
So no matter what, even if Bitcoin gets super popular, there can only ever be 21 million in existence.
That's right. And I think that's powerful, especially for people who have seen their savings wiped out by hyperinflation or currency devaluation.
Right.
It's a way to protect their wealth outside the control of, governments and banks.
So we have this decentralized system, censorship-resistant, fixed supply. But how's Bitcoin actually being used out in the real world? Is it just techies and investors, or are there practical applications?
It's definitely moved beyond speculation, yeah.
Okay.
One of the, I think, most compelling use cases is in countries with economies that are really volatile or limited access to traditional banking.
Right.
Take El Salvador, for example. They adopted Bitcoin as legal tender.
Wow. A whole country using Bitcoin. That's pretty wild. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, their economy was really reliant on remittances, so money sent back home by citizens working abroad.
Right.
And traditional remittance services are expensive and slow, right?
Yeah.
So by adopting Bitcoin, they were hoping to make these transfers faster, cheaper, and more accessible for everyone.
So it's actually impacting people's lives.
For sure, and we saw it with Ukraine, too, how Bitcoin was used to send aid directly to Ukrainians during the war, bypassing those traditional financial systems that were slow and bureaucratic.
Yeah. Wow.
It's becoming a really powerful tool for people and organizations to control their own finances and operate outside of existing power structures.
I'm starting to see why people are so passionate about this.
Yeah.
But let's be real. Bitcoin has its critics.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard it's bad for the environment, that it's all just a speculative bubble just waiting to burst, that it's used by criminals. How do we address those concerns?
I mean, those are all valid concerns, and we should look at them critically, right? When it comes to the environment, Bitcoin does use a lot of energy, especially for mining.
Right.
But the narrative is it's more nuanced than it's often portrayed, I think.
So it's not as simple as just Bitcoin's destroying the planet.
Right. I mean, first of all, it's important to compare Bitcoin's energy use to other industries. Like, did you know that globally, Bitcoin mining uses less energy than running Christmas lights?
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's true that Bitcoin relies on fossil fuels, but there's a growing trend toward using renewable energy sources too, like hydroelectric, solar, and even geothermal.
Okay, so the energy story is more complex than it seems at first glance. What about price volatility? It seems like Bitcoin is up and down all the time. Isn't that a problem for people trying to use it, to buy groceries or pay rent or things like that?
Volatility is a concern, definitely, especially, if you're new to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But any new technology goes through these growing pains. Think about the internet, right? Stock prices for companies like
Oh,
Amazon,
yeah.
they were all over the place.
Up and down, yeah.
But as the technology matured and adoption grew, things kind of stabilized.
So you're saying Bitcoin could follow a similar trajectory?
I think it's possible. And we're already seeing innovations that try to address this volatility issue, like the Lightning Network.
Oh, yeah, the Lightning Network. What exactly is that? I've heard that term, but I don't really know.
Think of it as it's a layer 2 solution, right? Built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain,
Okay.
and it allows for super fast and cheap transactions
Hmm.
with almost instant confirmation times. It's like a superhighway built on top of the existing Bitcoin road system, so it can handle way more traffic.
So it's like Bitcoin went from dial-up to broadband.
Yeah, exactly. Faster and more efficient.
Yeah, much more efficient.
And this is key to making Bitcoin practical for, buying coffee to sending micropayments.
Right.
And we're seeing companies like Starbucks and Twitter experimenting with Bitcoin payments via Lightning Network.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So even though Bitcoin's still relatively new, it's changing fast and finding uses in the real world. It seems like there's a lot more to this than just, speculation and hype.
For sure. Bitcoin is really challenging what we think we know about money, finance, and even individual freedom. And I think its impact is only going to grow in the years to come.
Well, this has certainly piqued my interest. What else should we explore about Bitcoin? Where do we go from here? Wow, okay,
Yeah.
we've covered a lot of ground here, from shadowy creators to global payment networks.
Right?
But I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
What I'm really curious about is the potential impact Bitcoin could have, not just on our wallets,
Right?
but on, like, society as a whole.
Hmm. Yeah. That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Remember we were talking about those cypherpunks earlier?
Yeah.
They weren't just computer nerds.
Right.
They were really driven by this, uh, like this deep belief in individual liberty and the decentralization of power.
So it's about more than just money. It's about a change in how we think about control, authority.
Exactly. We've relied on centralized institutions, governments, banks, corporations,
Yeah.
for centuries to manage our lives and our finances.
Right.
And Bitcoin challenges that. It says, what if we could create a system where individuals had more control?
That sounds pretty revolutionary, but isn't there a risk that comes with that freedom? What's to stop people from using Bitcoin for illegal activities?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's true that Bitcoin's been used for illicit purposes, just like any form of money, right?
Right.
But criminals will always find ways to exploit new technology.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the key is to build in safeguards and promote responsible use,
Right.
not to just stifle innovation because of that risk.
So it's a balancing act,
Yeah,
like with any powerful tool.
exactly.
Okay, but what about the benefits then? If Bitcoin really took off, like what could that look like for the average person?
Well, imagine a world where you didn't need permission from a bank to open an account
Okay.
or send money to someone in another country.
Yeah.
Where you could control your own savings and investments without needing a third party,
Hmm.
where you could, support a cause you believe in
Yeah.
without censorship or interference.
That sounds pretty great, honestly. But let's be realistic. Can Bitcoin really scale to handle, millions, billions of people?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
The internet was once considered a niche technology too,
That's true.
and look at it now.
Yeah.
I think the key to Bitcoin's scalability lies in, continuing to innovate. We've already talked about the Lightning Network, which allows for those faster, cheaper transactions.
Mm.
And there are lots of other exciting developments happening in the space,
Okay.
from those layer 2 solutions to advances in privacy and security.
So Bitcoin's like constantly evolving to meet these challenges.
Yeah, constantly changing and adapting. It's a living, breathing ecosystem.
Wow.
And as more developers and, entrepreneurs come into the space, the pace of innovations is only going to increase.
This is where I have to ask the big kind of speculative question. What does the future of Bitcoin look like? Could it actually become like the dominant form of money worldwide?
Well, some people think so. They call it hyper-Bitcoinization.
Hyper-Bitcoinization. That sounds like something out of like a science fiction movie.
Yeah,
You're saying the dollar, the euro, all these currencies could just like disappear.
I know it sounds far-fetched, right?
Yeah.
But the more you learn about the current financial system, the more plausible it starts to sound.
Yeah.
Fiat currencies,
Right.
they're ultimately based on trust in governments and central banks.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin offers an alternative. A decentralized, transparent system, one that isn't subject to political whims or inflationary pressures.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to wrap my head around this. Even if we don't reach this full-blown hyper-Bitcoinization,
Right.
it sounds like Bitcoin is going to have a major impact on, finance, regardless.
Yeah.
We're seeing big institutional investors getting involved already.
Yeah, for sure. Like companies like MicroStrategy and BlackRock, they're betting big on Bitcoin.
Right.
And as more institutions recognize its potential, as a store of value or as a hedge against inflation, I think that trend's only going to accelerate.
Yeah.
We could even see a future where Bitcoin is held by central banks
Wow.
or used to settle international transactions.
It feels like we're on the edge of something big here. Like the world is waking up to what this could be.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for the average person? Should we all be running out to buy Bitcoin right now?
Well, that's a personal decision that everyone has to make for themselves. I can't give financial advice.
Of course, of course.
But I will say that understanding Bitcoin is becoming more and more important, whether or not you invest.
So even if we're not all going to be Bitcoin millionaires,
Right.
this is something we should all be paying attention to.
Absolutely. Because I think Bitcoin represents a fundamental shift in how we think about money and power and technology.
Yeah.
And its impact is going to be felt way beyond just finance.
Okay, I'm convinced this is bigger than I realized. But where do we go from here? How can we learn more and stay ahead of the curve?
Well, the best advice I can give is to just stay curious. Keep learning and exploring and asking questions. There are tons of great resources out there
Right.
online, podcasts and articles,
Right.
educational platforms, community forums.
So we should approach this like we're explorers, charting new territory.
Exactly. Bitcoin is a frontier, and it's full of possibilities.
I like that. I like that a lot. But before we get too carried away dreaming of digital gold rushes, let's take a step back and recap what we've learned. So we started with the origins of Bitcoin, right? Uncovering, the mystery behind its creator, that cypherpunk ethos.
Yeah.
And then we went into the technical details of this pretty revolutionary technology, understanding how that decentralized structure makes it so resistant to censorship and manipulation. We also saw how it's actually being used in the world,
Right.
empowering people, challenging those traditional power structures.
Sure.
And we talked about some of the criticisms too, right? Acknowledging the energy use and the price volatility, but highlighting those efforts to address those concerns.
Right. Right.
And then we even, took a glimpse into a future where Bitcoin plays a much larger role in the global financial system, maybe even, challenging the dominance of fiat currencies.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. But we're not done yet. In the final part of our deep dive, we're going to explore some of the philosophical implications of all of this.
Okay.
Consider the potential impact on individual freedom and, social structures. And then we'll leave you with some final thoughts and resources to help you continue your Bitcoin journey. So we've talked about, the what and the how of Bitcoin, but now I want to get into the why. Like, what does this all mean? What are the big implications, not just for, our bank accounts and our wallets,
Yeah.
but for our lives?
Well, I think, Bitcoin isn't just a tech innovation. It's more like a social and political experiment, really.
Okay.
It makes us rethink, how we relate to money and power and even each other.
Okay, that sounds pretty deep. Break that down for me a little.
Well, for most of history, right, we've relied on these big institutions to manage our money and set the rules of the game, basically.
Right, governments, banks.
Governments, banks, corporations.
Yeah.
They hold the power, and we just have to trust them, hope they act in our best interest.
And Bitcoin changes that.
Yeah, it flips the script. It asks, what if we could build a system where the power is spread out, where trust is built into the technology, and where individuals have more control over their own financial lives?
That's a pretty radical idea, but can we actually function without those big institutions? Like, is that a realistic?
That's the experiment, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin forces us to ask those questions, to think about new possibilities, and imagine a future where power is more decentralized.
You keep saying that word, decentralized. What does that actually look like in practice?
I mean, imagine a world where you didn't need a bank's permission to open an account. or
Okay.
send money to, family overseas.
Yeah.
Imagine supporting a cause you believe in without worrying about, someone censoring you or interfering,
Mm.
where you have control over your own data, your online identity.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. But even if all that's possible, isn't there a risk that comes with that much freedom? Like, how do we protect people from scams or prevent bad actors from using it?
Oh, yeah, of course there are challenges. Every new technology comes with them.
Right.
But the point is to find ways to manage those risks without stopping innovation.
So, like, finding that balance between freedom and security.
Exactly. And it's a constant discussion, right? What I think is so cool about Bitcoin is that it's open source, it's a global community, so you've got developers and users all working together to make the technology better, and solve those problems.
So it's not just about the code itself, it's about the people behind it.
It's a movement, yeah. It's about giving individuals more power, making things transparent,
Yeah.
and building a future that's more fair and sustainable.
This has been really eye-opening. I mean, we've talked about everything from the blockchain to the philosophy behind it all.
Yeah, a lot to cover.
But if there's one thing I hope people take away from all of this,
Yeah.
is that Bitcoin is more than just, some digital currency.
That's right. It's a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
It's pushing the boundaries of what's possible
Hmm.
and making us imagine a whole different future.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. So to everyone listening, we encourage you to, keep learning, keep asking those questions.
Yeah, stay curious.
That's right. The world of Bitcoin is constantly changing, so there's always something new to discover. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.